Good evening, fellow Plexers. I'm excited. I've learned a new trick with Filebot. Or let me rephrase that. I've been taught a new trick by the developer of Filebot, and this trick is going to help my buddy the Howman, who wants Filebot to be able to handle files like this. And this is in your honor, Howie. I'm using the example of a cartoon because I know you love cartoons. So I have Space Ghost and Dino Boy, S01 E00, space dash space part 2 and part 1. Well, actually, PT1 and PT2, and then I have part 1 and part 2. So what you're going to have to do, Howard, is pick one or the other. And I've got a Filebot expression that will handle one or the other. Now, the developer of Filebot is the genius behind that. Maybe he can come up with a way to use one formula to handle all of the options that work with Plex. I've always just used PT1, PT2, PT3. I don't really think it's necessary to have a catch-all formula that can do any, because you can just insert whichever one of these you use into the formula that he's shared with us, if that makes sense. So let me bring this in, and I'll copy all this into the description of the video. So the Filebot developer commented on a video I made for Howard about Filebot, and he said you can use the curly braces space DI space and curly brace to do it, and I couldn't do it that way, but alternatively I could do it this way. And I had to adapt it a little bit because Plex convention, let's bring that back in. Plex convention will be the show name, a space dash space, the season episode coding, and then a space dash space with a split file name at the end. Now, I put a lot of stuff between the season episode coding and the last part of the file with a split file name. Admittedly, I do put a lot there. And I haven't tested any of this with subtitles, so that just popped into my head. But I don't imagine it's going to be an issue. But when I get done filming the video, or maybe I'll pause it and set that test up and see how it works. So, if you're going to use, well, this is my current expression that creates structure. This replace trailing brackets prevents a double year from being added when you're pulling naming from TVDB, because most series don't have the year as the proper show name. So the TVDB structuring is going to pull the name extra, but if the name of the show already has the year in it, I'm sorry, the TVDB. All right, let's start fresh. Again, I'm not a professional YouTuber. Okay, so most series at TVDB don't have the year in it. Some do. So this replace trailing brackets removes the extra year in case the show has the year in the show title. Without this, it would show up twice with just this stuff, okay? So it does it once for the show folder and then again for the episode file name. So here's the season episode coding. The T in the curly braces is the episode name. And then I add in brackets, an open bracket and a closed bracket. I add information about the video format, the video codec, the audio format, the audio codec. You don't have to do any of that. And then the Filebot developer a while back helped me. Well, actually, he didn't help me. He did it all for me. This little formula he wrote because I wanted to look inside the file for only English subs or undescribed subs. Most likely, they're probably English subs not flagged correctly. So if I have at least one English subtitle inside the container file, this gets added to the file name at the end. If I have undescribed subtitles, this gets added. Now, if I had an undescribed subtitle and an English subtitle, I'm not sure what will happen. Maybe the world will end. And then this little bit handles external subtitles in the format of SRT. And as I mentioned in other Filebot videos, you got to do a little prepping for that. So I typically use a PT1 and a PT2. And if you look, this is what the developer of the Filebot gave me. And this is how I adapted it. I just put a space dash space inside his formula. And then this other one, the formula is changed to part instead of PT. All right, Howie, drum roll, please. We're going to throw all this into Filebot. And look, I don't have any season folders. I just have simply named file names in a Space Ghost and Dino Boy folder. Now that I know the Filebot developer watches some of my videos, man, give some Linux some love. I'd love to be able to increase the font of the interface independent of my Linux operating system. It takes some work because usually this is small. You know, just in case he was watching, I'm going to jump into this before I get to Howie's stuff. So, where am I for my displays? I'm already on it. So I have to run these two 28-inch 4K monitors at 1920 by 1080. I leave the scale at 0, and then I bump up everything with the accessibility option with a large text to get things to size decently. Well, that changed screens. That jumped from the second monitor. And this is just kind of small. I wish I could bump this up with an option inside the interface. And that might not be easy to do. So I'll get off that horse really quickly and get back to Howie's cartoons with part 1 and part 2 split naming. All right, so I'm going to choose my regular TV show expression. So if I want to rename this, Filebot's going to tell me I have an error, and it will pick the first one to rename properly and skip the second one. So now if I use this expression, it's only going to rename the PT1 and the PT2 properly. It still won't know what to do with the part 1 and part 2. So see how it handles it? And it leaves the rest alone to rename. Now if I pick the part 1, now it knows what to do with this, but not that. So all you have to do is code the expression for whatever you're going to use, PT1 or part 1. And again, let's bring that up. So I'll put this in the description of this video. And if you just wanted a simpler expression, let's do that together. Let's go with the part 1 type. All right, so let me just copy this again. And again, this is naming from TVDB, which I think everybody should name from for a TV show library. Okay, so I'm going to lose all the extra stuff and just throw this back in, and I'll handle external subtitles too. So let's go make a test expression for that. I'll drop down, edit expression, new expression. We'll just call it simple new TV. I'll paste that in. The data source will be changed to the TVDB. And now this will work if you want a custom expression that names from the movie database for TV series. Just pick that. It'll do it. Okay, so episode ordering is Airdate. We're fine. Let's save the preset, and now let's run this through with that more simplified preset. Simple new TV. And it looks good. So we've got the show name, season episode coding, the episode name, and then we've got the part 1 and part 2 being handled here. So let's go through the full process, but let's change these to a part 1 and part 2. Rename them both at the same time. Okie dokie, let's go with this new simple one. It's handling everything okay. Let's rename. No errors. And now let's look inside this folder. We have a season 01 folder. And we have the split episodes named properly. So they will just scan into Plex. I don't have to show that. And again, these aren't real episodes. Good evening, fellow Plexers. This is just a simple dummy file. I just call them a dummy file because they don't really mean anything and they're easy to move around and work with. And I've just got 10 of them that I can copy from a directory and just rename them whatever I want. So anyway, thanks for watching. And this was dedicated to the How Man, my cartoon loving Plex friend. And I think this will make him quite pleased. I think that was his last goal with Filebot. He's on the Filebot track. And now I have to do a Filebot TV show renaming guide fresh again. So I can put all my custom expressions in the description of that future video to be updated for the part 1 and part 2. All right, thanks for watching and happy Plexing.